Okay, we are recording. Jamie, how you doing today?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I'm all
I'm
right.
absolutely boiling. Let's have it right straight away. I'm absolutely melting. But I think the rest of the country is as well.
So we're recording this on the 18th, which is it today's the hottest day or tomorrow? One of them's going to be like the hottest day in British history or something, isn't it?
40 degrees. I have a vague recollection. I was only little when it was, I think it was 78, was it? And it was about 40 degrees or 38 degrees, yeah. And everyone's houses started cracking. Do you remember? And everyone was...
That's right.
All my neighbours' houses, and it was like the pavement started melting, and your feet were like sinking into the... But I was very little, but I remember the panic. But apparently it's going to be even hotter, isn't it?
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the first time we got... the last time we got some real big heat was at the beginning of lockdown, which I kind of think eased us into it quite comfortably, because I think everybody sort of went into like a little bit of holiday mode for the first sort of month, really. We had glorious sunshine, we couldn't go out, so we was all sitting in our back gardens. I think airport rules applied to drinking. Everybody was like, it's 1 o'clock now, I'll have a beer. And
1 o'clock, God, you were disciplined.
So Jamie, tell us a little bit, just sort of casting your mind back over the last sort of bonkers 18 months that was lockdown. Like, how did that affect you personally, and tell us how it affected you, work wise?
It had a massive impact, like anyone, but as artists, I was on tour at the time. I was in Mamma Mia on a UK and international tour, and I remember we went to Hull, and I was driving up to Hull on the Monday, and Boris made his announcement. We got there. We were the only show in the country. We had the BBC cameras and everything outside, but the only show in the country that went ahead. And we did. And then we were told at the interval that was it. We were going to see the show out and then done. But we thought, because we were all knackered, we've been touring for like 6-7 months. We were knackered. So we were looking forward to it. We were thinking, this is great. We're going to have a couple of weeks off. And then we were going to go back to Glasgow, and we were going to miss a couple of venues we weren't that bothered about. And we all went over to the pub, said goodbye, drank loads of beers, shared bowls of chips, kissed and cuddled each other goodbye. And then 10 of us went down with COVID the next day.
No way.
Yeah, back in the very, very early days where they weren't testing. Yeah. And I got back and I thought, and it just absolutely wiped me and my wife out. But it's really weird, and I'm sure I'm not alone here in thinking the work thing was a worry, but I was tired. I was ready for a break. And like you just said, it was the blistering hot weather. It was gorgeous. And all we had to do was figure out what we were going to eat and how we were going to sort of eke out what lunches we were going to do, who was going to go and stand in the queue at the co-op for 4 hours with the one in, one out system. And then they narrowed it down to buying 2 items, didn't they? And all this stuff. So at first, it was like everyone else, the novelty of, polishing up a bottle of Hendrix by 11 o'clock on a Monday morning, trying to keep the kids amused. It was one of those. But yeah, eventually it really took its toll, and you started to panic about, the industry particularly. I mean, the guys at Mamma Mia were phenomenal. They looked after us really well because we were still on contract, but eventually they had to let us go, and they had to... they kept us on a retainer for a bit, and then you started. So I went off and did. Oh my God, it was madness. I went and joined this agency. I worked in the cash and carry, stacking shelves, because there was just carnage in the cash and carry because people were going and buying in bulk, and they couldn't deal with the deliveries. And then I went and worked for Travis Perkins, delivering building materials, and I was working 12, 13-hour days for not a lot of money, just because I was panicking because I didn't know what I would do. And then, funny enough, like we were saying just before we came on this whole podcast thing for you was born out of that. We started doing concerts. We moved house in December. We had a little roof terrace, which overlooks a few houses, and I play a bit of guitar and gig a bit. So just one Friday, after another bottle of Hendrix polished off, I just got the guitar out, plugged the gear in, thinking I was the Beatles, and did a little rooftop gig to my neighbours, because everyone was doing a quiz. Do you remember everyone was just doing a quiz?
Mate, I used to love a quiz. I don't want to go anywhere near one now.
Doing quizzes, and we were doing quizzes with our neighbours, and oh my God. And so in the end, I thought, I don't want to do any more quizzes, and jigsaws as well, that was a thing. And I did this gig, and it was great, and everyone sat in their garden and a few beers, and it just snowballed, and we ended up organising these online festivals. Like Caroline Lucas, because I'm down in Brighton, so she's our MP. She got involved promoting it, and it just got bigger and bigger. We did about 4 or 5 in the end, and we raised loads of money for the NHS and different charities. And since then, that's sort of carried on for me. I've started organising a few gigs and organising a few charity concerts and stuff. And it kicked off this whole like new world. And they opened up performances, and they built a theatre on the beach, and we put on this West End on Sea, we called it. We had all these guest singers come down, and I compared it and hosted it, and we packed it out, and then they had other acts like Jimmy Carr came down and did tried out some new material, Sean Walsh and all these comedians, and there was a couple of plays. We just started this whole like festival revolution. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
That's great.
Yeah, it was great. It really was. It really was. It's all on my Instagram. You can see all the how it all built.
So was it just kind of having that time, going back to what you said about sort of playing the guitar, was it something that, was that a bit of a creative outlet for you? Just thinking, oh, do you know what, I'm going to go and pick up the guitar again and have a play? That's
exactly what it was. It basically, because, you know, I've been in this game, I've been an actor for 25 years. I've done loads of TV, film and theatre, and it's all about, you know, paying my mortgage, feeding my kids. When you're in that situation and you're on mortgage payment holidays and, you know, furlough schemes, whatever it is, you strip it right back to go, I'm a performer, and all I've got is my skills as a performer. So everyone was, and what was brilliant, what I love. So for me, that's a natural progression to get the guitar out, have a couple of beers and start plonking around playing a few songs. But when we organised these festivals, we opened it out to our community, and there was like a really high-powered banker that lives on our street. Never met the guy. Turns out he's a brilliant trumpet player. And so he did a little set. He did an hour just playing some songs online, and everyone logs on. You've got the details. And all these people started coming out of the woodwork. All these people that don't, you know, you just see them in their suits on their way to the station.
Yeah, of course.
All of a sudden, they're in their flip-flops and shorts, and they're knocking out, you know, saxophone tunes, or there's like a drummer, and all of a sudden you've got half a band formed on your street that you didn't know was there. So it was great. It was a real saviour, real saviour.
All right, well, let's start your playlist, mate. And for track 1, I want you to tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please.
I mean, I might as well say now, as a caveat to every single one of these answers,
right?
This was torture in a brilliant way, because
good.
Like, yeah, you're opening it out to other people, and then someone else will go, "Oh, about this, what this." So I settled on. There was one. I was very close because I had a boxing match. I had a charity boxing match about 3 years ago, just before COVID.
Right.
And I walked into Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses.
Right. I want to talk about this, right? Because I box, and
did you?
Yeah. And I'm obsessed with it, and I have a podcast about combat sports as well. That's my other podcast. So
amazing.
I mean, just out of shot there, that picture that you can see there, that's Cinderella Man. Right. And if you look to that side there, you'll see signed photographs of Arturo Gatti and all of my favourite fighters. So yeah, I'm a bit of a boxing nut as well.
Mate, I'm an absolute obsessive. So I need to. I'm gonna come on your other podcast.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah.
So see, that's the question. I mean, I do speak to boxers, but I mainly speak to UFC fighters. And one of the questions I always ask them is like, you know, where did you come out with your walkout song? And we also interview TV personalities and people like that on there, and we make them watch a fight and you know, sort of pull that fight apart and make up what they made of it. You know, as somebody that's not necessarily a big fan, but then we always ask them, what will be your walkout song? Yeah. How much time did you spend thinking about that?
But I am, as a rule, one of the most indecisive people on the planet. So I'm a professional pontificator. I can't settle. So I spent probably more time on that than I did actually training for the fight. And I went back and forward. Because the thing is, what you've got to do, and it's a bit like answering the questions of this podcast, it's really, really difficult to strip away other people's opinions. And you want to be cool. You always want to be like, oh yeah, I want my musical taste to be cool. But actually, I'm not cool. and you got to then settle and go, right, I've just got to go. These are my answers. This is what it is.
Absolutely. You've got to be honest.
Yeah.
You can't try and be cool on this podcast. Like,
No.
I think of about the 400 people that have been on, there's been a couple where I'll just think, bollocks. No way was that your first record. No one was that cool at that age.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, my next door neighbour actually we were having a coffee on Saturday morning, and he is like proper. He's a cameraman for big bands. He follows them around, and he is properly cool, and his musical taste is cool. And he just put me to shame. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm not going to ask you anymore. So yeah, in terms of the walkout music, really difficult. And I if I did it again, I've chosen a different song. I'd go out to the boss, James Brown.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because it's so cool. It's just so cool when you walk out and it just goes, just the lyrics, it pays to be the boss.
Yeah.
And look at me, I'm a bad mother. But Welcome to the Jungle, because it was such mayhem training for this fight. I used to box as a kid, and I've always boxed, I've always trained. And I just had this mad itch to scratch, to get back in the ring. Because, everyone's a punch bag here.
They're called midlife crises, Jamie. I'm experiencing that at the moment. Don't worry, mate. You're in good company.
Yeah, mine's not over. I'm in mid-club. And my wife will testify to that. So, and I just had this massive itch. So I got in, and the Welcome to the Jungle, I just wanted something to sort of symbolise the lack of control that I had over what the fuck I was doing there, or why the fuck I was doing it. Because everyone was like, why are you doing that? You're in your 40s. And I'm like, I don't know. I just know that I've got to go in and get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And throw some leather and see what happens. And hopefully, once I've done that, it'll be done and I've ticked the box and I can move on. I'm not sure I have, but anyway, I don't think my wife's not going to let me do it again. So
enjoy it though.
I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was obsessed. I'm obsessed with boxing anyway, and I train, I keep myself fit, and I go to the boxing gym, but it was amazing. It was terrifying. The stress of it was unreal, but I'm so happy I did it. I'm so happy I did it. I mean, I had I couldn't eat properly for about 2 months because, if you anyone who's boxed, no matter how good you are at it, you've got to take one to give one.
Cool.
And so you are constantly walking around with a sore head and your jaw, you can't open your jaw. But it was great. It was I absolutely loved it. I wouldn't change it. And I fought a kid who was 20 years younger than me, 2 stone heavier than me, who told me he was going to knock me out and do this, that, and the other, and beat me up. And, I was too old. And I stopped him in the second round.
Oh, really?
And I saw the ref ask him if he wanted any more, and he shook his head and said no. I was like,
love it.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, there's your walkout, but that's not your answer, right?
No. So my answer is, I love an intro. An intro for me has got to be, it's got to have loads of different instruments. It's got to have loads of different layers and levels, and it's got to take you on a journey before the song even starts. So I've settled on Money for Nothing, Dire Straits.
Yeah.
It starts with that lovely ethereal kind of spiritual feeling, and then it just builds and builds, and then Knopfler comes in with his guitar, which is like no other sound, no other guitar sound, and then the drums kick in, and then it's boom, and it's boom, boom, boom. Oh man, it's such a tune. And even when I was speaking to other people and I was like, they were confusing me, I went back yesterday, I thought I'm going to just double check, and I played it. I was like, that's my tune. That's it.
You know what? It just builds and builds, and you'd never get away with that in this day and age. Considering, Brothers in Arms, one of the, if not, well, definitely in the top 5 biggest selling records of all time. And you think that was the single, that was the lead single, and you just think, imagine taking that into a record company now and going, oh, here's my first single, and they're like having a laugh at you. It's like a 4-minute intro. What I mean?
8 minutes the track.
But I mean, it's so 80s, isn't it? And it's so that of the time. It's so big and grand, and everything's turned up to 11, and just that the sting vocal, just in the background of the and it all just builds until that drop, and when the guitar chimes in, it's like, oh, there's the money shot right there, and it's just the payoff, and it's just it's a monster intro that. And
it's phenomenal. I think there's certain instruments, certain people for me, there's like three guitarists. People are going to be shouting at this, but three guitarists, you can tell their guitar a mile off. Obviously, Hendrix is one. As a guitarist, you know, I'm a big guitar. Brian May's the other, and Knopfler. And Knopfler, for me, Knopfler, to try and, because I play a lot of covers when I gig, I do a lot of covers. I can wing. I can even play a little bit of All Along the Watchtower. I can blag a little bit of Hendrix, not, you know, because I'm acoustic, I can just sort of fanny about it. But to try and emulate Dire Straits, to try and play Knopfler songs, the chords are so up and down. They're so all over the place.
Really?
Oh, it's so difficult. So he's a genius. He was an actual genius. And to have that sound, that beefy sound that he has, but still with a bit of elegance, I think it's class.
Love it.
And you don't really hear much about Dire Straits anymore. They haven't got that legacy like Queen have or anyone else have. Like, unless it's people like me and you.
But I don't think Queen have probably. I don't think Queen have had a record that has sold an album that has sold as many as Brothers in Arms. I might be wrong. I don't think I am. That record, that album, Brothers in Arms, sold. Must have been the biggest selling. That or Jackson would have been the biggest selling albums of the 80s. It was huge, that record. And
their videos. Do you remember the Dire Straits videos?
Pioneering. Pioneering.
Unbelievable.
Right. And what's weird is you just look at it, and I remember, like, I'm 49, so I can't. What that would be, like 85, 86 when that record come out.
You're 49. What sort of filters have you got on your Zoom?
Oh, don't. It's literally, I've just got a little bit of a suntan. I'll tell you what, the beard. Like, the sun ain't doing my beard any favours. It's just getting greyer and greyer. Like,
no, you look well on it. You don't look 49. I didn't think you're 49. Let's not start flirting. Let's just.
But what the weird thing is, we've when I looked at Dire Straits in the 80s, and I remember just thinking he looked pretty cool with his headband on.
Yeah.
But I also remember thinking he looked like one of my dad's mates, and like. And I think, and you look at like Clapton, and you look at Phil Collins, and all of these were the biggest pop stars, and they all looked about 50.
Yeah.
And you think, I bet they weren't. I bet, like, in them videos, like Knopfler's about 30, but like I don't know what was in the water back then, but they all just looked about 50. You know what I'm saying?
But then sort of stayed there. That's
absolutely. Yeah.
Because there weren't any filters, there weren't any, like, you know, gyms. I think there was like one gym within a 40-mile radius, I remember. It was sort of a garage with some cans on the end of a stick, you know. Like, there's something to be said for that old school mentality, you know, and the old school, like, you know, not worried about it.
Well, look, let's go old school. Let's take you back. Tell me for track 2, Jamie, the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please, mate.
Right, I know I've actually changed one of my answers here.
Go on.
Because I've given you 2 answers, and I suddenly had a recollection of one, and I thought I have to put this in. And this is probably so my first one, really. I did put Georgie Boy, Rod Stewart, which still now, if you listen to it, it's a heartbreaker, and even more, it's one of those amazing songs that has more of a poignancy as the decades go on. Now, you know, with the whole LGBT community and where we are now and where we're at with Black Lives Matter and all this stuff, the discriminatory stuff, which we are hopefully working through, putting to bed. It's a slow process, but we're getting there. We are getting there. And when you think about that song written in the 70s, what was it? And, you know, this lad who gets basically beaten to death because of his sexuality and has this struggle with his parents. I mean, I just remember it resonating massively with me.
Absolutely.
And I'm a kid of the 70s, and I went to a working class comprehensive where you didn't put your head above the parapet, and you tried not to be different. You tried to be as normal and fit in and get through your days as possible. I was bullied. I remember it really resonating, and I didn't know I was going to go on to be an actor and to do what I do and to be so involved in that community. So that I'm going to give you. So this podcast is going to go on for 3 hours, by the way. So there's that one. There's also Wham. So there's also Careless Whisper.
Yeah.
Because I remember going to my primary school discos, and it was the first time I became very aware of my limbs and girls.
Yeah.
Being in a room with like mood lighting. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, you know, and you're skidding around on your knees like you're doing, and jumping off chairs and punching your mate and giving dead arms and dead legs. And then all of a sudden, And the girls sort of like gravitate to the centre of the hall, and you're like, oh shit, what happens now? And I really want to do something about this, but I'm so out of my depth.
Yeah.
And I remember that sort of like shuffling around and probably running over and pushing over a girl and running back to my mates, you know. So I remember that emotionally just being like, I don't know what's happening here. There's something.
Such a mad time in your life, that, isn't it? And I probably would have chose something from my leave a school disco for this question had I ever answered it. And I remember being at that school disco and being like, lads, with all like the boys just running around doing skids and all of that. And then it was like, right, this is the last song of the night. And then you're leaving like primary school and they put on, I don't know if you remember, you're a bit younger than me, but the Kids from Fame had loads of songs out, and they had this slowie called Star Maker, and they played it.
Yeah.
And like, it's ridiculous that I've just got goosebumps talking about a song from the fucking Kids from Fame. But I had my first slow dance with this girl called Claire Wallace, and oh mate, I thought that was it. I was never going to see her again. She was going to a different school. Broke my heart, mate.
Yeah. These are the little scars, and I've got 2 little kids, and I'm just watching already. My daughter's 8, and she's starting to have that little, you know, the boys are featuring now, like the boys, and she's having, they're not boyfriends, but you know, she likes a boy, and then he goes, and it's literally one day they're together, and then the next day he likes her mate, and she just comes home and she's all upset, and then they're back, like. It's that thing in it, and it's all the foundations, the little scars, the little bits of scar tissue that
absolutely
stay with you. And I'd like to say I've figured it out, but I still haven't figured it out. So there's that, but the one I settled on is I don't want to go cats in the cradle, but my mum and dad separated when I was young, and it was back in the days when divorces took a long time. Like no one, you know, people battle through. They didn't split up. So my mum and dad spent 4 years in a very turbulent situation, and it was pretty horrible. My dad was an alcoholic, I don't mind saying, and lived separately. And I just remember one day being in my bedroom. I still get choked up now, and listening to the Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics about when it's all about his dad dying and not saying all that. And I remember just bursting into tears. And it was the first time a song, and I didn't know, you know, when a song hits you or a play hits you or a film hits you or something, and you don't know why, it triggers something you're not aware of. And I must have been 11 probably. And it just, boom. Yeah. And I suddenly remembered it the other day. And it was, so I'm like, the other two had emotional, but this had an actual physical, emotional thing. It just made me very aware that my mum and dad worked together, and my dad was, you know, and I just wanted, that's all you want as a kid is, you know, you just want your parents and you want a solid family unit. Yeah. And that just sort of really hit me like a train.
It's a really sort of poignant and really sad song now. I don't know if that was written by like Rutherford. I don't know if that was autobiographical or whatever. Is it autobiographical? Yeah. Or if it was because Paul Carrack sung that, I think, didn't he? And I don't know if Carrack wrote it or not. But I remember. I don't know if you ever remember. I mean, it's kind of changed its level of poignancy now. But I remember when that first came out, they were on TVAM or whatever the morning show was with Rolf Harris, and they played it and they cut back and Rolf was in tears, and that was back when everybody thought Rolf Harris was this lovely human being, and I remember thinking, God, they've broke Rolf, and then seeing it on Top of the Pops on the Thursday, and just thinking, God, this song is so sad, you know, about mortality and the sort of synth playovers, really kind of gentle but evocative as well. It's a beautiful record, that really is. It's
a really simple song. Funny enough, you know, I did a gig yesterday. I played at this sort of tea party event, and I was talking to this fella. This fella come out, and I played a song, and a song I'm going to talk about later on by a guy called Drake White, called "The Coast Is Clear," which I sing to my kids. But And he came up and we just got chatting. And I said, as a covers person, someone who just gets my guitar out and I sit in the corner of a pub, I've been gigging for years and I'm good at revving up the crowd and all that. They just want to hear the classics. They want to hear ones they know. You get requests and all that. And that's fine. And you can do whatever. I can, you know, pretend I know everything. But every now and again, if you sing a Dylan song or if you sing a good country song, I'm a massive country music fan, you sing a song that is simple but tells a story, it's so much easier, and it's so much easier to invest as a singer, as a musician in that song. And even though they are so simple, that Mike and Mechanic song, it's a simple message. It could be a film script, it could be a play script, it could be a basis of a story. Like Georgie Boy, all of those, like it's those songs you properly invest in.
Yeah,
they're the ones that trigger, and they're so clever. They're so clever.
I think to have good melody and to write it as a story that's the key to becoming that earworm on multiple levels. You know, that the melody pulls you in. An example of that for me is Up the Junction by Squeeze. You know, as soon as you just hear that, a song ain't got a chorus. It's not got a chorus. It don't even need one. It's that instant, and that Jules Holland play over that. I never thought it would happen. Me and the Girl from Clapham, and then, I mean, that's a very tragic song as well. How, you know, how that goes, but it's so catchy, and it's just a storyboard. You can literally shut your eyes and see it, like and the same with Georgie Boy. It's like them songs you can just, I think, imagine
it's one of the, I mean, it's one of those. You play that now, it's more poignant than it was 10 years ago. Play it another 10 years, you know, it's so simple. Just imagine we all got on. Imagine we were all a brotherhood of man. Imagine we all just lived life as one. Through these pandemic times, through the wars, through, you know, Putin and all this, you just listen to the lyrics of those songs, and you cannot, you know, you're not human if you're not getting emotional.
Yeah. I reckon that John Lennon knew his way around the song.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, he should have started a band or something, shouldn't he? Really?
He should have, shouldn't he? He could have made a couple of bob.
Yeah.
Well, you touched on school, mate. So for track 3, tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school.
Right, so I've adjusted this slightly because I think we've touched on school and Careless Whisper and all that. So I'm going to go. So I'm a working class kid who grew up in a council estate. Never in a million years.
Whereabouts?
In Kent. I was down in Kent. I was born in Ashford. Lived just outside Maidstone. My family were all South East London. So my nan lived in the high rises in New Cross. So I'd go up there and spend a lot of time in there overlooking Millwall's old ground. And then my mum was a fruit picker. So I'd sort of have a very diverse upbringing. Never in a million years. No one in my family were actors or, you know, went down that road. But it was a real strong urge for me that I had to suppress and ignore and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, eventually I had to follow my dream. I had to try. And I went off to drama school. And I was 25 when I went to drama school, and it's the happiest I've ever been. It was the first time in all of those 25 years, with all the turbulence and whatever else I've been through, everything made sense. I suddenly became a boffin. I became someone who, I never did homework at school. I was never academic, still not. But suddenly I went to drama school, and I had this folder. I made this amazing folder, and I'd find myself going home and like doing extra work. And reading plays, like reading Chekhov and stuff, things I'd never heard of, and just so invested in what I was doing. I was absolutely besotted. And every day, I this beaten up old Cavalier, which how it got me there every day, I don't know. And I found this free parking about a mile walk away from drama school. And I'd park my car and I'd walk from my car to drama school. And I had a CD Walkman. And the only CD I had was I had Train, one of the albums by Train. I can't remember the album, but I loved Drops of Jupiter.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to that and never, for 2 years, every day, back and forward on my walk. That's what I did. And I still now, I'm never bored of that song. And it just evokes so much emotion and so many good memories for me. It's such a happy time. So I'm going Drops of Jupiter from drama school. So it is a school of such, but it's yeah.
I want to go back a little bit to something you touched on about school and sort of saying
Yeah,
you almost suppressed your desire to be an actor. Like, was that sort of referencing what you said earlier about, well, in a lot of working class schools, you keep your head down, you don't go and want to do anything that's a little bit left of centre.
yeah,
It's like, was that the reasons why you sort of
hundred
suppressed
percent.
it?
Yeah, 100%. And also, these are back in the days when they I think I had a careers advisor, well, an appointment with a careers advisor. I don't know who this person was. And you basically were just told you to go in the army or get a trade.
Yeah.
That was it.
It was tick boxing. It was tick boxing. Like, I remember doing that, and it's just the biggest load of shit I'd ever done. They sat there and they were like, right, what do you want to be? And I ticked all these boxes, and they went, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be a rock star. And they literally laughed me out of the room. I probably would have said musician. And they went, well, you can't do that. Like, what else is there? And so I said, I just was being a prick at that point. I was like, stuntman. And they're like, you can't be a stuntman. And it was like, all right, you need to be a mechanic. And I was like, I don't want to be a mechanic. Like, I want to work. I want to be singing music.
Be a plumber. People always need plumbers. That's what I was always told.
Yeah.
I'm the least likely. I mean, you do not want me anywhere near your plumbing. I'm telling you that now. You're fucking out. Your house is flooded within minutes. But I was having a conversation with my daughter yesterday about this very thing, and I said, and I felt so privileged to be able to say to her, do whatever you, because she started to go, she wants to be a fashion designer. That's what she said. She wants to be a fashion designer, work in theatres and put on big shows and all that. Because her and her mate, she's likes messing around with clothes and all that. I said, listen, you do whatever you want to do. I said, but the one thing you need to make sure you don't do is something you don't like. Even if you make no money, just do something you love. And I'm like, God, this is advice that I wish I'd have been given. Who knows? Things happen at the right time and when they're supposed to. But yeah, it was never on my radar. Even though I was a practical learner, I was never academic. I was really good at sport and I was really good at drama. And they were the only two GCSEs I left with. I left with PE, drama, and design and realisation. I didn't have maths, English, nothing. I went on to then resit English, failed maths about 4 times, and we just put it to bed and we just realised I'm enumerate. And as an actor, you only, as long as I can count how many hours I've done and what my pay slip should say, that's it. But that was me, and I learn in different ways. And it's a bit like, I had another argument about, because I was really sporty, and the sports days that they have now, they're kind of non-competitive. And I'm like, but that was my only time to shine. Anything practical was my time at school.
Yeah.
And it was the only time, and it was those were the things you were allowed to sort of excel at. But to turn around in the 80s, early 80s, and go, I'm going to be an actor.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard enough to spend your day not getting beaten up as it was, let alone, going, oh, hello, I'm going to be an actor. You're going, Jesus Christ. So it took a long time.
It's interesting, because I left with drama as one of my only GCSEs, and I loved it, absolutely loved it, and it would never have entered into my mind that there was a career opportunity within that, because nobody from where I lived was like an actor. Like, nobody. There was one girl in in my school that was in Grange, and it was literally she'd absolutely just gone above and beyond and blown us all out of the water. Like, she was on telly. She was in the greatest show on earth at that point. She was in Grange.
Oh my God!
That said, one of the girls from Grange lives around the corner to me now, and when my kids were still at school, her kids were at the same school, and honestly, it was ridiculous, Jamie. She played a character called Faye in Grange Hill,
remember, the blonde girl.
And every time we'd go and pick up the kids, my missus would be like, "Will you just rein it in?" Because I'd just be like, "Oh my god, it's Faye from Grange Hill." Just thinking I was like, it was her and Princess Leia. That blew my mind when I was a young lad.
But they don't make telly like that. You can't make telly like that anymore. I swear to God, I am not a heroin addict, because my mum had those Just Say No leaflets plastered all over our kitchen.
Yep.
Literally, that saved my life, that campaign. I was so scared of
terrifying,
drugs.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. And now we have to sort of mollycoddle it. And I'm like, no. I want to print those and stick them absolutely everywhere. I want to Just Say No campaign.
Absolutely. He was a good boxer, Samo.
I heard this. Yeah, Lee. What's his name? Lee
McDonald.
Yeah,
he was great. He was he went pro. I think he when he stopped acting, he went pro as a boxer. But then he had a car accident, and it messed him up, and he couldn't fight anymore. But yeah, he was a bit of a prospect.
Well, you've had my good mate Johnny Harris on here as well, haven't you?
Oh, mate, one of the loveliest humans on the planet.
John. John was an mate. He was an ABA champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's in good nick now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's in Hollywood now, isn't he?
He's.
I remember when he was just a Bermondsey boy. Now he's all Hollywood, and Botox. No, he's not really. I'm joking.
He's really
love
weird.
You, John. If you're listening, I love you.
It's really weird you mentioned Johnny because my podcast, I do a lot of my work and that I do with he's an actor now, but he's been a musician called Scroobius Pip, and Pip's acting in a new thing called Great Expectations, and he literally said, I met Johnny Harris on Friday. He said, and then Johnny sent me a message saying, I met your mate Pip on Friday. What a lovely, and I was just like, oh, yeah, it's really nice because he's like, I've done Johnny's one. This was pre-lockdown, face to face. He come in me old studio uptown, and what a lovely human he is. He
genuinely is, and do you know what? So humble. He's been right through the ringer, Johnny. I'm not speaking out of turn, and I won't go into details, but the man's an inspiration. He's an utter inspiration, and one of the loveliest people you'll meet.
Absolutely.
But you wouldn't have been on the wrong side of him, I'll tell you that. that man can hold his hands up, I'll tell you.
Well, the film was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, brilliant.
Like, absolutely incredible.
And I don't think you can make that film unless you've been there, unless you've been in the ring and you know what it's like. You know, to have to dig deep. So you know what it's like to be rocked to your boots and to have to bite down on your gum shield and all that. I think, that was a demonstration of all his finest skill sets, I think. Johnny.
Absolutely. And if he wants to play an absolutely horrific, terrifying human, this is England. Like, it's just terrifying, that character.
So when I watched that, so have you seen London to Brighton? Because I'm in London to Brighton.
What a film.
And so that I knew John anyway before we did that. And then he's so intense, Johnny, as an actor. And there's a bit where he's cut his... my boss has cut the back of his leg, raising his knees, and he's sitting in the back of the car, and we're keeping him there. Before the takes, and bear in mind, I've known Johnny, and we've, back in the boozing days, we'd have a few nights out down at the Union Theatre in Southwark, and then he's sitting in the back of the car, and he's like putting his fingers down his throat, and I was like, "What are you doing, John?" And he's like, "Well, because I want to get that feeling of how much pain I'm in and all that," and it was one of those moments. I was like, I'm quite a shit actor, I don't really. I need to work a lot harder at this game because. But yeah, no, he's a top lad, and this is England. When I saw the rape scene, and I remember watching it. I was away, and it was so good, but I couldn't speak to him. Yeah. And I remember 2 weeks later, I remember messaging him saying, "John, I haven't been able to message you because I was so affected by it. I had to take 2 weeks, and I'm an actor, so I know what it's all about. But it took me 2 weeks to actually be able to put him back in the category as a friend because he was so good. It was like horrific.
And it's weird because people do say like, "I was fucking terrifying and awful, that scene," and it's like, yeah, it's a rape. It's meant to be terrifying and highlight all of them feelings of disgust and hate, and because it's a disgusting thing that he's doing, and to be able to. As an actor, to be able to do that, I mean, I'm not an actor at all, but to watch that performance and be that affected by it, I think is credit to Johnny and Vicky McClure, of course.
Massively,
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me the first song you bought from a record shop.
Well, again, this highlights how uncool I am.
This is the one that has to be uncool. There's no coolness in this track. You can never go, the first record I bought was something cool. No chance.
No. I've tried to rescue it a little bit because I bought one the next day.
All right.
But my first ever record, and I loved it, and I still think it's a lovely, catchy little tune, was Wedding Bells by Godley and Cream.
Great song.
Formerly of 10cc.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember hearing it and loved it. And I had my little bit of pocket money, went to our price and bought it, come back, played it. And then that began, my old man was really into music. He was always in bands and all that. So I grew up listening to loads of obscure music, and he'd love it. And I was like a massive fan of the Sweet and stuff when I was a kid. Fox on the Run was like one of my favourite songs, and so I got a real obsession with 7-inch vinyl. I used to love just going and getting for like, I don't know, 50, 60p or whatever they were.
Yeah.
So I bought that, and then the next day I sort of half redeemed myself and bought Uptown Girl by Billy Joel. But
what a tune! What a tune!
I can't get away from Wedding Bells, Godly and Cream. That's my first one. What was yours?
So the first one I actually bought with my own money was Video Killed the Radio Star.
So you're instantly cooler than me.
That's not cool. I mean, it's a good pop song, but like
cooler than Godly and Cream.
Well, I don't know. Like, I really like. I was talking to my pal the other day about Godly and Cream. Have you heard? Don't wanna be under your thumb forever. That was Godly and Cream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was such a good little tune. And because they become like video producers, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah.
Because their video for Cry, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's the first video where like the faces change into different people.
That's it. And they did the crossover. Yeah. They did like the computer generation thing.
Proper pioneering. And when you see sort of 15 years later Michael Jackson do it with black and white, that was you think Godly and Cream done that like 15 years prior to that. I think they're and 10cc. I mean, oh my god, like what a band! Like,
amazing. Yeah, amazing. I mean, it's this sort of music never dies. You know, the 10ccs and that of this world. I think it's, and I love that with my kids now. I love it's a real rite of passage.
Yeah,
as an old duffer. To sort of churn out and introduce them to, you know, proper music.
Absolutely. And you know you're old when you say words like proper music. Like, because my dad would have said that to me. I saw that racket. Get some proper music on. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's it. I've hit middle age now. I've said proper music to me kids.
Yeah, exactly. What's all this rubbish? 70 words. Just noise. But my daughter, we bought her, she wanted a clock radio. She's wanted her alarm clock. So I got her the clock radio, set it all up, and it went on for about a month. And I just programmed in the radio station to wake her up. Of course, I put it on radio too.
Yeah.
So anyway, after about a month, my 8-year-old daughter comes out and goes, "Daddy, can I have Radio 1 on? Because that's really boring. When I wake up, it's always really boring music." I was like, right, that's it. I'm taking the radio away. You've learned your lesson. Yeah, so I had to begrudgingly put on, some modern music for her.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
But let's sort of touch on Uptown Girl, because I don't think we ever spoke about Uptown Girl on this podcast. And it was such a huge record. And I guess like when it's got a novelty edge to it now, because it become the step kick wedding song for all of us throughout the 80s. It was like Mum's Up on the Dance Floor, Uptown Girl was on with Nan, do you know what I mean? And it's like, and it's so easy to kind of park songs up in that kind of, and I say exactly the same for Come On Eileen, that they just become so synonymous with being them songs that are just like, oh, it's 80s wedding disco. They're incredible records. That's why they still get played.
Exactly.
And Uptown Girl, Billy Joel's an absolute genius, make no mistake. And I guess that's probably his biggest hit, certainly in the UK. And the reason for these things is because it's a great pop record, and it's just got, the video was fantastic. You know, Christine Brinkley
and the story. It's a Shakespearean story.
Yeah,
that's, he's written a Shakespearean story into a song.
Yeah,
it's your Lady Chatterley's lover. It's whatever you want to do. It's punching above your weight. It's however you want to do it. Everyone is relatable, and it's a relatable. It's what I was going back to earlier. If you've got a good narrative, and you're saying, and the melody's great, and just the intro, bum ba bum boom, bim, you're straight in, you're there, and the energy of it, and then put that with the video where he's in the garage and all of that. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Those songs are never going to die. But you're right. I mean, Come On Eileen. Again, video, again, that beat, the earthiness of Dexys.
I tell anybody to just go and listen to that song again with fresh ears. and listen to the complexities in that record. It goes all over the place, but wherever it goes, it's so catchy, so good. Like it's proper rousing song. It's like if you're gonna in the trenches and you're gonna go over, give me fucking Come On Eileen. I'm like I'm up for it. That's my Ballcat song.
Yeah, I mean, you'll all go in the trenches, arm in arm, like, trying to kick each other. Yeah, that's it. But that was what I was willing for when Careless Whisper was playing. I was like, oh, come on, can't we have Come On Eileen? I know where I'm at with that. We can just beat each other up, and I feel comfortable in that environment.
I don't want. No, I'm not in love by 10cc. Give me one step beyond. Exactly. Come on. All right, mate. Let's go clubbing. Tell me the song that soundtrack your years clubbing.
There's one I've got to say here, but the first one I'm gonna just chuck in is Hear the Drummer Get Wicked, Chad Jackson, because that little funky and it was the first time I've ever sort of perfected the Running Man and thought I was the absolute dog's bollocks. So that was very early days. But I've got me and my sister, wherever we are in the world. My sister's my best mate, and wherever we are in the world, this is our song, and it's Space Cowboy, Jamiroquai, the dance mix.
Of course, yeah.
If we're ever together and we're out, we request it. If we're sitting indoors having a drink, we put it on. If I've been in Australia or she's been out, she's worked on cruise ships. If she's somewhere, she will ring me or she will we'll request it. It's our song. It's our thing. So there's a million ones. I mean, I was a big indie head. I love the Inspiral Carpets. Yeah, This Is How It Feels was one of my favourite songs, still is. Happy Mondays, Step On was massive, you know,
big love to the Happy Mondays. Paul Ryder passed away yesterday. Yeah, he passed away yesterday. Yeah, big love to the Mondays.
Yeah, massive love. Oh man, just revolutionary. They changed the game entirely.
So where was you going indie clubbing back then?
Yeah, yes, basically. So moving on into the rave scene really was my. I think the indie was the first time that I really nailed my colours to the mast musically. I was a Queen fan as a kid, and Queen's probably my most consistent band that I followed. But the indie scene was, you know, like your Stone Roses, the Inspiral Carpet, Charlatans, all of those. That was the first time I started to dress. Like I did my hair, I had an earring, I had all my hair brushed forward. I was a miserable fuck. Jeans that didn't fit me. Yeah, and I just sort of hated everyone other than a collection of about 3 or 4 mates who liked the same music as me. And I went. That was my first rite of passage.
Where was you then? Was you still in Kent at this point?
I was in Kent at this point. So there was a few. So Maidstone was really progressive actually in the music scene, and at the time there was lots of little warehousey places that were really up and coming, and because it's not that far from London, and I think there was a big sort of scene. So I was quite lucky, and we'd sneak in. We weren't allowed. We were underage, and we'd go into clubs. There was one time we went on a quest to go to Hacienda, and we never made it. We didn't make it past Euston. Yeah. We lied to our mums. Bless my mum. She was a single mum. Fucking hell. I'll put her right through the ringer. But we sort of legged it and said we were going to have a sleepover at our mate's house and this, that, and the other. I think we got found out. I think we had to sort of come home with our tail between our legs. But we were off to Manchester on a quest to go to Hacienda. Thank God we didn't get there, because I think we would have probably died.
I never got there. I never got there either. It's the holy grail, that was.
And I work in Manchester with Corrie, and obviously that a lot now. Yeah. And I go sort of on a little reminiscing walk quite often around by the Hacienda, where there's just flats now and there's lots of bars. Oh, what you got there? Tony Wilson. Yeah. Well, there's a whole. I don't know if you've been up there. There's a whole area dedicated to him.
Oh, I've not been up there for. The last time I went up there, I was really lucky. I got to interview one of the Smiths, who are my favourite band, and I was up there, and it was like, and we went past the building. Obviously, that was the Hacienda, but I've never really sort of got stuck in. I've got a mad little story though. I went to this thing back in when I was in a band in the 90s, and we got sent out to Cannes for this like music festival thing. And it's weird you mentioned Inspirals. and it was like a big industry backslap thing, and we got out there, and it was only me and my singer, and basically there was this inside this huge sort of thing. It's where they do the film festival, and it was called Midem, and we got in there, and I spotted Clint Boone from the Inspiral Carpets, and I was like, "Fucking hell, it's Clint Boone!" So I've just gone like running over there, and he runs at the time in the city the music thing for breaking bands. That's what he was out there doing. And so after sort of gone running over there, and I was just like fanboying, just going, "Oh, Clint, how you doing? Bloody hell, I love the Inspirals and all of that." And he said, "Oh, what are you doing out here?" I said, "Oh, I've literally just got a bag of cassettes of me band's demos, and like our manager sent us over here to try and sort of get some exposure in other countries." And he went, "Oh, my mate Tony will be all over this," and I was like, "Oh, right, cool." I didn't know what he meant. I mean, Tony Wilson's walked over, and I was like,
No.
"Oh my god!" And I was like, "Hello," and he went, "What are you doing?" And he went, "Oh, these boys are just like literally filled their bag with cassettes, and like they can't afford to stay in Cannes. They're in this little like B&B, like we've had to get the bus in." And he was like, "Oh, I love it." And it was right up his street. Do you know what I mean? Just a couple of lads just over there hustling. He went, "Right, follow me." And he walked us around the whole centre, and he introduced us to everyone. He went, "These lads have done this, and he's their cassette." And like, knowing you think, whoever says don't meet your heroes, like they've never met Tony Wilson. Story. He was bloody lovely. And,
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the legend. Yeah, there's a whole area up there now around where the Hacienda used to be, and there's a cinema and a theatre and a nice restaurant. And it's unrecognisable, I'd imagine, from how it was, but it's all they've paid massive homage to Tony Wilson and what he did, because that changed the game. That changed again. You know, there's moments in music history, particularly in our country, with the Beatles and all that, and that was, you know, and again, massive tip of the hat to the Happy Mondays, because it changed the game completely. You know, for me and for a kid at that age who was like I said, you know, you suddenly become aware of you don't know what to do with your limbs or do with yourself, and you got all these sort of emotions, and then suddenly, bam, you know. And I remember the Smiths, being introduced to the Smiths, and just, you know, Morrissey's voice, just like, oh man, this charming man is like one of the greatest songs ever. Yeah. And then it just, for me, the Inspirals, it's music that just sort of hits you right here and just takes you somewhere, and it answers the questions. Yeah. That you don't know what you're asking, but then you're getting answers to the questions. Do you know what I mean? And it was the first time I went down a bit of a rabbit hole as a kid.
Because I mean, at that point, like living in Essex, for me, I just wanted to be in Manchester. Manchester was the coolest place on the planet at that point. Yeah. And speaking to so many musicians and people that are from Manchester over the last sort of, you know, 4 or 5 years of doing this, like one of the things that I've never really got living in Essex, and I don't know if you got it in Kent, but obviously now working so regular in Manchester, do you feel that there's more of a kind of sense of, I won't say community, but like it feels to me that people that are from Liverpool are so fucking proud to be from Liverpool, and people from Manchester, you know, want to shout it from the rooftops. We're Mancunian. You know, this is what we've given to the world, and I don't feel that. I don't know if it's because we're so close to London and I don't know, but I've never got that from Kent or from Essex. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm massively. My dad's a Geordie, so I grew up with that, and I've always been aware. I'm always very friendly, and I love community. And I grew up where our door was always open. I'd come home from school, and there'd always be people in our house that wasn't the Southern thing. That was because of the Geordie connection. Yeah. Even now, right? So Coronation Street. I walked up there. I've done EastEnders. I've been around the block. I've never worked anywhere as welcoming and as friendly as Corrie. Yeah. Because I think it is genuinely that it's the people. It is the people. You know, they've been through it. They are true working class. You know, they all worked in the factories. They all had to. It's a bit like those oddly sadistic but romantic pictures of the Blitz. Yeah, you know, when people are walking around on the rubble, there's a real romance to that. Yeah. You know, there's a real romance to the disdain and the poverty and all of that. And I think that's what you get. And I think that's inherent in Liverpool. And so then when they have something to champion, like the music scene, the football club, whatever it is, they just absolutely back it. Yeah. Absolutely, unconditionally back it. Whereas I think the home counties, there's a lot of weird politics. There's a lot of, you know, even within London, you know yourself, north, south, east, west. It's competitive. It's not inclusive.
Yeah.
You don't get that in Manchester. You don't get people from Ancoats having a pop at people from Salford. You're from Manchester.
Yeah.
But you might internally a little bit, but outwardly we're Mancunians. You know.
All right. Well, look, we're talking cities and counties. So for track 6, I'm going to ask you, Jamie, to tell me a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
Right. So I've got. I'm very proud to say this. He wasn't born there, but his mum was there, and he did live there for a considerable period of time. So I am going to nick him. I'm going to take him.
Yeah.
And because David Bowie lived in Maidstone, which was where I grew up, and his mum lived in Folkestone, which is where I spent a lot of my childhood. So I'm having Bowie, and I don't care what people say. I don't care if you get people writing in. I don't care if people having a go at me on Instagram. I'm having him, because if you can nick, like Jack Charlton did with the Republic of Ireland, if you can nick a load of players who are just have got a little tinge of iron, and get you to a World Cup quarter final, I'm having
whatever
Bowie.
It takes. Whatever it takes.
Yeah. So I'm having Bowie, and as I said to you, my answer was, God, trying to choose your favourite Bowie song is like trying to choose your favourite kid.
Yeah.
It just depends on what day of the week it is and what mood you're in. So
it's a tough one, isn't it?
Starman I love, Rebel I love, Space Odyssey. I mean, where does it stop? You know, even that last album that he sort of posthumously was phenomenal. Like, and the man he's beyond he's not just a musical icon. The man was an icon.
Yeah.
Style, his attitude, his
style.
I mean, unbelievable. And even he's was just ahead of his game in terms of environmental issues and his awareness of the planet, his awareness of the human race and the message that he gave out. And he was just the coolest. I remember being a kid, and he sort of had like yellow teeth and he's kind of ethereally weird looking. And I remember just girls at my school, a bit like Robert Smith from The Cure, that just being in love with him. Like, not just like, oh wow, he's really cute and he's, like a Nick Kershaw or whatever, like in love with him. Yeah. And I remember just seeing pictures and also being in love with him and just being like, this man, you can't take your eyes off him. Yeah. Just one of those special people, like a John Lennon, like a Hendrix, Jim Morrison, all these people, they just come along and they're just like, whoa, it's something different. And Bowie's right at the top of the tree for me.
100%. Man, I mean, that year, lost Bowie and Prince in the same year was just crackers, mate. But and it just felt, because I'd say the same for Prince as well. They felt like they were just beamed down from outer space. These people, and and they were never going to die. It's like, that's David Bowie. He's going to live forever and just constantly make this incredible art. And it just didn't make sense. And it's impossible to pick your favourite Bowie song. It really is. And there's a reason for that. It's because there's so many amazing records. And
I remember the day he died, and I did the same with Aretha Franklin as well. I literally just put on a playlist. I just put on Bowie's greatest hits on Spotify, whatever it was. And you just forget. And it's song after song after song. And it's just like rousing song, emotional song. Just song after song, lyrically perfect. Yeah. And Aretha Franklin was the same. You just go, oh my God, what a goddess. Absolute goddess. And just like you say, sometimes these people come along and I don't know if they're meant to stay here for that long. They're just meant to come and shake the world up.
Oh, he done that. Do you know what? One of my favourites is like from the film was absolutely panned, but I fucking love Absolute Beginners. I think it's such a song. I think it's proper grand. It sounds like almost like Sinatra, but like, I love it. I think his voice on that is brilliant. It kind of gets sort of overlooked, that one, but I thought it was an absolute cracker, that.
Totally right. Yeah, totally right. And then even, and then I've introduced my kids to Labyrinth.
Oh, mate.
And you're just like,
how many people could make that outfit look cool? Not many.
Yeah. He's just so like sexy. I mean, that word gets banded out, but he's just a sexy dude.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a handful of people that probably return me, yourself being one, obviously. But
obviously. Johnny Harris.
Johnny Harris. if you told me, I'd do whatever he said. But Bowie's just, you know, he's just there for everyone.
Yeah.
And he's just an absolute dude. So the fact that it was in the 60s, he lived in Maidstone, and it was one of his first bands, I think. And he tried to make it, and his mum lived in Folkestone, so I was, you know, I've always had that. I've always had that in my mind. I've always been very proud of that.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm having him.
Perfect. You're welcome. You're welcome to him. Right. Track 7.
Yes.
The last track. This is when you get to play Tastemaker and Influencer, Jamie.
Yes.
A song that you think many people may not know, but you want them to hear.
Yeah. Again, I've gone 2. I've done well to narrow it down to 2 answers.
You have, yeah. You right royally took the piss for this whole podcast with your
yeah, I know I have. And that's sort of a theme of my life. I do that a lot. Push the boundaries till someone says no. So one of the ones, this is one of my favourite songs, and I love it. And I love this band as well. And that's Smokers Outside the Hospital Doors, The Editors, which is just an absolute track. It's got I'm a big Elbow fan, I love Elbow, and One Day Like This is one of my favourite songs. And this has got that thing where it's got this amazing boom, 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 like this amazing drum beat. And it's the story. It's like smokers outside the hospital doors, like this sad environment, and you know the emotions of that. And I think it's just a massive tune. My little boy loves it as well. So we always have it in the car. But the one I've gone for, I'm a big country fan, so I couldn't do this podcast without talking about country music, because I'm a huge country fan, and I kept that in the closet for a long, long time, even when I was a kid, because again, it's not cool. But now I'm very proud of my love of country music, and I think there's some great new country artists. And I saw this guy who came to Brighton, and he's a guy called Drake White. He's from Nashville, and it's just brilliant. His voice is so beautifully country, and he's written this song called "The Coast Is Clear," and it's about. And I sing it to my son, and I play it on the guitar and all that. And it's basically about fuck everyone else, make your own decisions, and whatever you do, have some fun. And there's a line in it that says, just go run with the bulls over in Spain, dance buck naked in the pouring rain. And there's also another line in it that says, never forget your way back home. And it's basically just go and have fun, do what you want to do, and just know that your roots are here, we'll love you, and we'll be proud of you wherever you do. And it's a song that I wish someone, you know, going back to what I said about drama school and never thinking that I could go and be an actor and all of that, it sends that exact opposite message.
Yeah.
It says, go and do whatever the fuck you like, and make decisions, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, don't worry about it. And the pain is going to be there, but when you look back at what you've gained after the pain, you know, I hope your soul flies high. I'm just quoting the song. It's just a stunner. Simple, brilliant country song. The Coast Is Clear.
Love it. Well, we make it easy for people to go and listen to it, because we've put a Spotify playlist together featuring all the songs that you've picked and we've spoken about today, Jamie.
Brilliant.
Looking forwards to the rest of this year. What you got coming up, mate?
So a lot of stuff going on Corrie at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I've just had a wedding which didn't go according to plan, and I've got some very exciting stuff coming up. So I've just done a Christmas movie, which will be out, which I can't say too much about. I can say Saran Jones is
wonderful,
and she's absolutely delightful, and is a big fan of Christmas, as am I. So it was a real tick box for her. So I feel very proud to have been in that. I'm doing Panto and Crewe, so if anyone in and around the Manchester, Crewe, Stoke, any of those areas, me and Louis Spence will be dancing around in tights in Aladdin. Yeah, and then other than that, I'm off to Greece in a few weeks with the family for a couple of weeks holiday, and I'm just going to have the school holidays with the kids and try and survive this 40-degree heat.
Lovely, lovely. Jamie, it's been a proper joy having a natter with you, mate. It's been really good fun.
Mate, me too. I've absolutely loved that, and I could go on for another hour. So, thanks for having me on. I feel genuinely honoured to have been here with the esteemed company that you've had on in the last couple of years and what have you. So I feel,
mate,
Bit of a charlatan, but there you go. I'll have it if you'll have
it. Mate, the joy is all mine, mate. Thank you so much, Jamie. Don't go anywhere, mate. I'm just going to press stop.
All right.